The world woke today to an extraordinary moment from the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, where President Donald Trump delivered one of the most controversial speeches of his second term. At the center of that address was an idea that has shocked allies and energized critics: the call to bring Greenland under U.S. control. The president was careful to say he won't use force to acquire the island, but his statements nonetheless sent diplomatic shockwaves. NATO partners immediately pushed back, questioning whether a major American ally could be pressured into handing over centuries-old territory, and European Parliament insiders signal they may freeze key trade discussions in response. Behind the speech, and what may become the true headline, is not just policy, but rhetoric. Trump's remarks at Davos expanded beyond defense and economics, moving toward what critics describe as brinkmanship, threatening tariffs and suggesting Europe owes the U.S. for decades of military support. Markets reacted unevenly, and foreign leaders have expressed increasing alarm at what they see as a departure from cooperative diplomacy toward confrontation. Every word uttered today reverberated beyond borders, setting off a cascade of responses across capitals and capitals of industry alike. Yesterday's address was merely the overture to today's diplomatic fallout. President Trump's insistence that Greenland belongs to North America and must be part of U.S. strategic planning immediately clashed with Denmark's position, and European Union leaders issued firm warnings against coercion. Allies from Scandinavia to Central Europe have made clear they will not bow to tariff threats or endure pressure that they say undermines decades of alliance cooperation. Trump's version of immediate negotiations on Greenland, while disclaiming force, did nothing to calm tensions. Instead, European leaders have stated the future of Greenland must be decided by its own people, and not by backroom power plays. Denmark's foreign minister welcomed the renunciation of force, but reasserted national sovereignty over the territory. This dispute now looms over NATO itself, threatening unity on shared defense priorities from Europe's eastern flank to Arctic security. The diplomatic strain comes as the president also attacked European defense spending and trade practices, suggesting allies have been ungrateful despite long-standing U.S. contributions. His intense rhetoric marks a marked departure from traditional alliance consensus, raising questions about future cohesion. Behind the speech, and what may become the true headline, is not just policy but rhetoric. Trump's remarks at Davos expanded beyond defense and economics, moving toward what critics describe as brinkmanship, threatening tariffs and suggesting Europe owes the U.S. for decades of military support. Markets reacted unevenly, and foreign leaders have expressed increasing alarm at what they see as a departure from cooperative diplomacy toward confrontation. Every word uttered today reverberated beyond borders, setting off a cascade of responses across capitals and capitals of industry alike. In parallel to the international controversy, domestic legal developments have emerged that could shake Trump's executive authority. The U.S. You Trump's look a prosecutor. Supreme Court heard arguments today surrounding the president's attempt to remove Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, a move legal experts warn could radically weaken the central bank's independence. Conservative justices expressed skepticism about the precedent this would set, suggesting that such interference might weaken, if not shatter, crucial institutional safeguards. That hearing, largely overshadowed by tensions over Greenland, represents a serious debate about the limits of presidential power. Lawmakers and legal analysts note that if the court curtails the administration's reach, it could fundamentally alter the balance between the White House and independent federal institutions. This legal chess match unfolds while Trump's foreign policy draws fire, further complicating the administration's day-to-day priorities. While world leaders spar over foreign policy, everyday Americans took to the streets and workplaces today in a nationwide protest known as the Free America Walkout. Tens of thousands of citizens walked out of their jobs and schools in cities including Washington, Los Angeles, Miami, and Dallas to protest what they call authoritarian policies and erosions of civil liberties under Trump's second term. Organized in part by major civil rights coalitions and coalitions like the Women's March, demonstrators wore symbolic colors and called for sweeping reforms, from immigration policy to national security practices. Organizers described the walkout as both a stand for democratic principles and a message to lawmakers that dissent is far from diminishing. The protest underscored a growing divide within U.S. domestic politics, one that is mirrored on the international stage. Polling released today paints a stark picture of public sentiment. A large majority of Americans now believe the country is spiraling out of control under Trump's leadership. According to the survey, 71% of respondents expressed concern about the nation's direction, spanning across age groups and political affiliations. Interestingly, even a significant portion of Republicans and Trump supporters voiced unease, particularly regarding foreign policy and economic issues. Key areas of disapproval include inflation, immigration enforcement, and diplomatic confrontations with European allies, the latter tied directly to the events unfolding in Davos. The poll suggests growing skepticism about the administration's approach to executive authority and national priorities. These shifting attitudes may influence political calculations in Washington and beyond. In response to mounting criticism, the White House doubled down on its record in a statement released earlier today. The administration highlighted a series of achievements over the past year, from border security gains to economic indicators, portraying 2026 as a year of restored American strength. At the same time, spokespeople reiterated that Trump's Greenland remarks were designed to start diplomatic negotiations, not spark conflict. They argued that America's leadership role necessitates strategic thinking on all fronts and pushed back against characterizations of the controversy as destabilizing. While official statements aim to reassure, the real-world reactions, both internationally and domestically, tell a more complex story. European leaders issued unified responses today, warning that Trump's Greenland initiative could strain NATO cooperation and distract from priorities such as support for Ukraine and collective defense strategies. The NATO chief was quoted saying that diplomacy and stability must remain the alliance's foremost focus, suggesting the Greenland rhetoric threatens cohesion at a critical time. Denmark's government reaffirmed its commitment to sovereignty over Greenland, and Britain and other EU members indicated they would consider economic countermeasures if the US pressed tariff threats. International lawmakers described these exchanges as indicators of serious diplomatic stress that may reshape Western alliances. Analysts suggest this pushback could influence future negotiations across numerous global issues, from trade to regional security. Global markets reacted to the Davos address and ensuing diplomatic tensions with volatility. Although some U.S. stock futures showed brief gains when Trump ruled out forceful acquisition of Greenland, traders remain cautious as the geopolitical picture evolves. Analysts warn that sustained uncertainty could impact investment flows and cross-border trade agreements. Currency markets and bond yields also reflected investor unease, with a noticeable uptick in demand for safe haven assets. Major financial commentators expressed concern that continued political conflict between the U.S. and its traditional partners could have ripple effects on global economic stability. The unfolding situation may jeopardize broader international initiatives, including ceasefire talks and peace-building efforts. Officials tracking the administration's diplomatic agenda warned that aggressive tactics toward Europe could strain support for cooperative efforts in the Middle East and other regions. Trust among long-standing allies is difficult to rebuild once eroded, and observers suggest that even if Greenland negotiations calm, residual tensions could impact alliance dynamics for years to come. As today's developments settle into global discourse, all eyes turn to what happens after Davos. Will Trump pursue formal negotiations over Greenland with Denmark and NATO partners? Will domestic dissent grow stronger? How will public opinion in the U.S. influence policymakers in upcoming elections? And can a balance be found between bold foreign policy and diplomatic cooperation? What is clear is this: the events of the 21st of January 2026 have ignited a complex mix of diplomatic friction, domestic protest, and political reckoning, a story that will unfold for months to come.